الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على سيدنا ونبينا محمد وآله الطيبين الطاهرين. Today we commemorate the martyrdom anniversary of Zainab al-Kubra, the granddaughter of the Holy Prophet of Islam, the daughter of Sayeda Fatima, and Amir al-Mu'mineen, Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib. And today, as we sit in this majlis, we remember, for example, Sayyid Rida, may Allah have mercy on his soul. And as we commemorate the tragedies of Sayyida Zainab and Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam, let us not forget that it was Sayyida Zainab who established the first majlis to commemorate the martyrdom of Imam Hussein alayhi salam after he was slain in Karbala. Let us not forget that she is the one who established this custom of mourning and majalis and remembering the tragedies of the Ahlul Bayt before anyone else did. And bear in mind, it was a woman who established this tradition of holding majalis. And remember that when you come to the Husayniyah, when you come to the mosque, and when you take part in these gatherings and these majalis. And also make it a symbol that when you go home tonight and you talk to your families and you talk to your wives and your daughters and your sisters, that they understand this as well. That these majalis are a sacred place which was established by Sayyidah Zainab Salamullahi alayha, and that they must be treated with the utmost respect. Today, as I will discuss and as you will find out, there is not that much that is written about this historic figure, Sayyidah Zainab, as there are compared to other notable figures in the Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam. But it is not necessary for us to then go and dig up as many facts about her life and to go and establish every moment of her life and how she lived it, which are available for us in order to understand her character, in order to understand how pure she was, and to understand the strategic importance of everything which she achieved in her life. Although the information we have about her is quite little compared to other figures, it is enough for us. And there is so much to take away from even the little amount of information that we have. According to the Sharia, according to the laws of Islam, women are meant to be hidden treasures. They are not meant to be displayed for the entire world to see, nor are they meant to be advertised for anybody to be able to see and to have access to. Their life is supposed to be a subtle, discreet, but also important life. Amir al-Mu'mineen once said to Sayyidah Fatima salamullahi alayha, "Who are the best among women?" And she replied by saying, "Those who do not see men and those who are not seen also by men." Meaning, the one who is not put in front of the light and in front of the vision of multiple men, and who does not expose herself to being in these situations. And this is another reason why there is so little information available about Sayyidah Zainab sallallahu alayhi wa. Because she was not in the limelight throughout the majority of her life, before men were not able to have access to her or to see her. And this is the same with other women who are notable in the Islamic history as well. They were not put in front of men to display themselves or to speak or to give lectures. However, this rule of women being away from the public eye can only apply if all the other elements in the society at the time are also being followed and they are also equal. If the application of the Sharia is chaotic and it is imbalanced and there are other events which are going on which make this not possible, then this is the time where a woman is compelled and is obliged, and it becomes incumbent upon her to emerge into the open arena, to emerge into the open society. And this is the situation in which Zainab found herself in. This is the situation which she was forced into. Not because she had any choice, but because this was something incumbent upon her. This was something which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had decreed must be done. And therefore, what we know of her is only because of the exceptional and strange and difficult circumstances which she was forced to endure. Now, Sayyidah Zainab, in my eyes, can be described best and can be known best as the mountain of patience, the mountains of sabr. As I talked about last week, the concept of sabr is not something which is easy, it's something which is extremely difficult, especially when undergoing horrific circumstances. And it is not just because of what she saw in Karbala when she witnessed Imam Hussein alayhi salam, and she witnessed all of the members of his companions and his family members as well being slaughtered. It is not just because of this, but from all of the sabr which she also accumulated and cultivated from a young age when she was a child. For example, after the martyrdom of Amir al-Mu'mineen, she returned to Medina, and then 10 years after seeing this martyrdom, she sees the martyrdom of her brother Imam al-Hassan. And after this, of course, the martyrdom of Imam Hussein alayhi salam in Karbala. And she had many titles, which of course in itself means that she is someone who is of high quality, someone who is filled with various different qualities which are very noble, very admirable. But some that I want to mention specifically were titles that she were given later on in her life. And these include, for example, al-Masa'ib, the mother of the calamities, or al-Raziyya, or al-Nawa'ib, the mother of the catastrophes, because of all the difficulties and the hardship she was forced to endure being a young woman. And this patience that she had, something which she had from a young age, was not something which just comes out of thin air. It doesn't come from nowhere. It all has to stem from somewhere, some lesson that she learned, something which she went through, some of the people which she was around. And this is something that comes with close understanding of what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wanted for us in our lives, the way in which He wanted us to live. When someone has an understanding of the purpose of their life and the reason why they were created by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to be in this world, with that understanding also follows with sabr and patience, because these two go hand in hand. The knowledge of what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants for us to achieve and the way in which we can do it. Now we have, for example, a narration from Imam al-Baqir when someone came to him and they asked about Karbala, and they said, why did this calamity, why did this tragedy happen? Why would Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala let all of the horrors which unfolded in Karbala occur? And Imam al-Baqir says to him that it is because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wanted to raise the maqam, wanted to raise the status of the Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam, and to give them this high status. And that can only be done through this pathway of intense difficulty and intense suffering. Now, in order to try and understand what this hadith means, the best example we can use is from, of course, the tragedy of Karbala, the tragedy of Sayyid al-Shuhada, Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam. Imam Hussein himself states that my grandfather Rasulullah said to me that you have such a high position with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but you cannot achieve this position until you attain the status of martyrdom. Meaning that you cannot reach the status which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala means for you unless you go through the difficulty of seeing your family members being slaughtered, of seeing your companions being slaughtered, and you yourself also facing this slaughter. And so martyrdom and becoming shaheed was the most important and the most desirable wish for Imam Hussein alayhi salam. And therefore, so too, it should be our most desirable wish as well. Now, this great and noble figure, which is Zainab, was known for her eloquence and for her reliability and for her maturity. She is someone that we can rely on. She is someone that we can take inspiration from. She narrated traditions and she narrated testimonies from her mother and from her father. She narrated traditions from Asma bint Umays and Ayman and various other people who narrated from her as well. So she is a reliable figure and a reliable character. And her narrations can be found in Bihar al-Anwar, in other different books, in other different collections and volumes. But as we know, there isn't a great deal that has actually been recorded from her and has been transmitted from her. Now, perhaps one of the reasons for this, as I mentioned, is because she lived most of her life away from the limelight, away from the eyes of society. However, one of the reasons why we might not have so much information about her as well is because many of the books of the Ahlul Bayt and many of the narrations and riwayat and traditions from the Ahlul Bayt have been destroyed. Now, whether this was on purpose by the Nawasib, for example, or whether this was through natural disasters and natural loss of materials, the fact itself remains that many of the materials that we have surrounding the life of Sayeda Zainab and about her character and things which she endured have gone missing and are not able to be viewed by us in today's world. It would not be surprising for people who were in her presence to be making notes and to be writing down things which she said and lessons which she was teaching people, because Sayeda Zainab was a teacher. She may not have been a teacher in a school in the way that you think of it these days, but she is a teacher of lessons. She is a teacher of akhlaq. She is a teacher of Islam. This in itself is the most important role someone can have. So people will have been around her making notes about what she taught. And it is quite possible that these notes have been suppressed. Quite possibly because of the nature of what she was saying in these lessons. She may have been stating hidden gems about the realities of the Islamic Ummah at that time, about certain figures and personalities who may have been oppressing Ahlul Bayt. One of the scholars has narrated in one of his books, he quotes from one of the narrators of Hadith, and he says that after the martyrdom of Imam Hussein alayhi salam, I entered Kufa and I saw Zainab. I swear to God that I have not seen any woman who is as fluent as her, who is as eloquent as her when she speaks. He goes on to say she addressed the people just as she was speaking with the same tongue of Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam, meaning that Sayeda Zainab, with her beautiful, eloquent speeches in front of the tyrants, in front of the oppressors, was reminiscent to the people of Amir al-Mu'mineen and the fire which he used to deliver when he was giving sermons. And we know that she also had the same presence of mind and the same eloquence as Amir al-Mu'mineen, because of course she learned from him. She learned from the greatest figure of humanity after the Holy Prophet, and from being in the presence of him and other members of the Ahlul Bayt as well. However, the fact that the riwayat and the traditions of Sayeda Zainab and her legacy and her works have tried to be silenced is not just an old thing, but it is also a new thing that we're seeing today. Now, not only was Sayeda Zainab tried to be silenced by Yazid, may Allah curse him, but her legacy was attempted to be silenced from the time of Yazid up until this very day as I'm sitting here just now. When you have dogs, for example, like Saddam, may Allah curse him, who used to torture and execute brave female scholars and activists like Bint al-Huda, you can see where they take their inspiration from, meaning Yazid. When Saddam was torturing Bint al-Huda, when one of the torturers came to him and he asked, what should we do with this woman, and Shaheed Muhammad Baqir al-Sadr, he said, kill them, because I will not make the same mistake which Yazid did with Sayeda Zainab. Meaning the mentality of these dogs, these tyrants, these dictators is the same as Yazid when he tried to attempt to silence Sayeda Zainab. And now when you look in Syria and you see these Wahhabi monkeys which roam around, entering into the shrine, entering into the holy sanctity of the shrine of Sayeda Zainab and near her grave, you can see again where they take their inspiration from. When they try and prevent the adhan of the Shia being raised in the area of Sayeda Zainab, you can see, tracing back in history, where they take their inspiration from. When you see them storming her shrine with their guns, with their rifles, with their rocket launchers, into the burial place of a young woman who is the descendant of the Holy Prophet, you can see where they take their mentality from when they attempt to intimidate the followers of Sayeda Zainab. When you see them intimidating the followers of the Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam. But make no mistake, anyone who claims to be a follower of Amir al-Mu'mineen and by default Sayeda Zainab will make it a pledge to ourselves that we will not let Sayeda Zainab be taken captive twice. She already was taken captive by Yazid, and so we will not let her be taken captive today by the followers of Yazid. And it is with relief, alhamdulillah, that we're seeing some of the pilgrims doing ziyarah from Iraq to Syria, and inshallah this continues, and inshallah grows in numbers, and that the Mawaqib and the Hayats and the Husayniyas are able to all travel to Syria, to Sham, to be with Sayeda Zainab, because right now she's all alone. There is nobody there to protect her. There is nobody there to go and visit her and to give her their du'as and their salams. And so inshallah this increases. Now, something which is extremely important, which I actually took from the lectures of one of the Shia converts and reverts, a lady called Rebecca Masterton. She's a student of Shia Islam, and she has written multiple different books about Tashayyu and about the beliefs of the Shia. And one of the lessons I took from her was regarding the different types of war and warfare which is launched against the followers of Ahlul Bayt, and of course as Muslims as a whole. And when you look at the history of the Ahlul Bayt themselves, you can see the different types of warfare which was waged against them. One of the ways of warfare was psychological warfare, getting into the minds of people to try and deviate them this way. As you know, the days of what we call traditional warfare, where armies would go in and invade like they did in Iraq and they did in Afghanistan, these days are over. Nowadays, the type of war which the enemies of Islam try to put upon Muslims is psychological warfare. Trying to deviate our thoughts, trying to change our religions, planting individuals into communities who speak wrongly about Islam and promote fake, deviant ideas so that people become misguided. Now, although this is much more common these days, you can also find it in the time of the Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam. During the time of the Holy Prophet and after this, during the time of the 12 Imams, we know about the different battles and the different wars which took place against them. The wars that were raised, for example, by Muawiyah, the wars which were raised by Yazid, and then even after Karbala, when you have Bani Umayyah and Bani Abbas also waging war against the followers and the lovers of the Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam. And the descendants of the Ahlul Bayt and their followers throughout time had to endure these battles and they had to tolerate them. But I think that we are, and what we are living in today, and what we have been living in for maybe the past 50, 100 years, not just against Muslims, but as a global issue as well, is a psychological war which is being waged against us through our cultural institutions, through our religious institutions, and through the media as well. Now, something important about this, okay, we realize that there's a psychological war. The enemies of Islam, for example, America, Israel, they try and interject in our affairs and they try and deviate our thoughts with fake individuals and fake ideologies. The Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam at their time were always aware of exactly what was happening around them. They always had the insight and the basira to realize what the enemies of them were up to and what their plans were and what they aimed to achieve with these plans. They were aware of the kind of society that these enemies were trying to bring about. And I do not think that we today have the same insight as the Ahlul Bayt, of course, and their followers had at that time. I don't think we can say that our communities have this level of basira. We often, for example, welcome enemies into our own centres, into our own Husayniyas and mosques. We often make excuses for them under glittery reasons which we have. For example, someone might say these people are from Ahlul Kitab, interfaith, so we welcome them in. Why? If you know that a certain person is part of a fake ideology and movement, you should not be accepting them in. You should have the insight to know that this is a danger to not only yourself, but to your religion and to your children as well. Because all it takes is one person to come in here and he acts as though he's a righteous member of the community, but he is associating with the enemies of Islam. He is submitting to the ideologies of the enemies of Islam. You have some, for example, Masoni, Sahyoni, they come. And some of our centres let them in. Some of our centres welcome them and they shake their hands and they let them come and they let them give a speech. Okay, I'm not of the status who should be given a speech just now. I admit it. I am nobody. I should be sitting there. But at the same time, if I see somebody who is on the side of the enemies of Islam, I'm going to tell you that you should not be inviting these people. And you should not welcome them in either. And this is an important lesson that we really need to take. Sayeda Zainab salamullahi alayha was known for her wisdom. She is known for her basira and for her insight. Are we conducting ourselves with the same insight? When she is encountered with Yazid and his followers, does she pretend that she is okay with them and that she is happy with them? No. If you read the speech of Sayeda Zainab to Yazid, you'll see that she comes with anger towards Yazid and his followers. She does not make excuses for them. She does not welcome them even though she's in their company. She speaks out against what they say and what they do. So we need to be much more aware of the kind of environments that we are living in. And we need to be more informed and aware intellectually of the influences that our youth, that our young people are being subjected to. Whether this be from outside of the community or from within the community itself. The Ahlul Bayt, especially Sayeda Zainab, stood tall throughout all of these trials and tribulations, mainly because of the basira that they had, the insight they had. And if Amir al-Mu'mineen, Imam Ali alayhi salam, had not had this basira as well, then he wouldn't have had the wisdom with which he could conduct the battles which he engaged in. He would have had no chance at becoming the Khalifa. There would be no chance at his legacy being continued on until today. And so when we fight in our battles, not of course physical battles, but intellectual battles, we need to be aware and we need to have the basira beforehand so that we are ready and that we do not make fools out of ourselves and we don't make fools out of our communities. And I will end my lecture regarding Sayeda Zainab salamullahi alayha with a short excerpt of her speech to the evil tyrant Yazid, may Allah curse him. And think of these words which Sayeda Zainab says when you think about the shuhada. Think of these words when you ponder upon all of the martyrs and the shuhada who fell defending the shrine of Sayeda Zainab in Sham. She says, how amazing is it that the virtuous people, the people of high quality, the sons of the divine prophets and the awliya are killed at the hands of liberated slaves, the hands of the evildoers and the hands of the sinners. She says, our blood is shed by their hands and our flesh serves as food for them. We feel grieved and we feel upset for those whose bodies are lying unshrouded and unburied in the battlefield, wounded with arrows. O Yazid, if you consider our defeat as your achievement, then you will have to pay its price. And then the most important part which she says Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not commit injustice to his servants. Our reliance is on Allah. He alone is our relief and He alone is our place of protection. And in Him alone do we place all of our hope. This is the most important thing that we see. And we need to have when we see what's going on around the world today, when we see our people being killed, when we see all of the injustices and oppression which takes place. Know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the disposer of all affairs. All of our reliance and hope should be on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and we should not despair, first of all in His plan and also in His mercy as well. And to finish, may we be granted the possibility of ziyarah to Sayeda Zainab, and may we be granted the intercession of Sayeda Zainab, and may we have the honor and be granted the honor to be killed in the path of Sayeda Zainab. And I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to grant victory to the mu'mineen and the madhumeen and the mujahideen, and for all of the shuhada, please recite Surah Al-Fatiha after salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.